Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Snippy Joker, and on today's episode we do the third and final group, the DPS characters, which to me is the most complicated characters to try and figure out how well their main attack damage is. Now what I mean by that is, if you look at the bottom right, those are technically the character's abilities. But if you look at the bottom left, that is what's considered a main attack. So, for example, Adam Warlock, if you're just using his main attack, you're doing it in about 5. And if you do it in the head, you're doing it in about 3. Now, I have 2 previous videos on healers and tanks, so you can go check those out and see the categories and who won in those videos. But today we're doing DPS, and I've broken it up into 3 categories: shooters, flyers, and melee. So again, this is based on no buffs, no abilities, no debuffs, just base attack damage. Let us begin. Number 3 on the melee list is a little bit of a shocker, and that's Black Widow. Now, Black Widow is more known for shooting, but she also has an alternative secondary fire, and that is her batons. So it takes about 6 hits, regardless of body or head, to take out a character. Just look hard enough. Number 2 is Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic, alone with his main attack damage, can take out a character in about 5 hits. However, and this is if you're good with Mr. Fantastic, it can do it quicker than most. If you get him in his buff form, he can do it in 4. But most of us aren't that good and need to get used to Mr. Fantastic, and you're relying mostly on his main attack without going buff, it'll be done in 5. And number 1 is Magic. Now, Magic is a very, very fun character, and if you choose to learn her, she does her attacks in about 4 hits, and that doesn't matter if you do it with the head or the body. In 4 hits, the enemy is down. So Magic is number 1. Number 3 on the flyer list is Storm. Now, Storm can do this in about 5 hits. However, with her alternative form, which technically is an ability, it's done in 4. So if you're moving your teammates faster, it's done in 5. If you're in the lightning version, which is constantly going, which is why we kind of count it, it's kind of like an alternative form or rate of fire, you're doing it in 4. Number 2 in the flyer list is Iron Man. Iron Man is a very strong character and can take out an enemy with direct hits regardless of the head or body in about 3 hits, and technically does splash damage. Now, I know, yes, he can pretty much use his power-up form and gives more splash damage, but we're not relying on abilities. And of course, if you choose to do his laser, which is R1 and his alternative fire, it'll be done in about 4 or 5 seconds. But again, you have to be very close for that, because it does have a distance. Let's say, I think it's about right here. Yes. So pretty much, if you're standing right here, you're not going to hit the enemy. However, with his other main attack, guess what? You're hitting the enemy. So that's why we rely more on R2 than R1, and puts Iron Man at number 2. And the number 1 flyer, which kind of shocked me, but I think, or I believe in the latest patch they did buff up his main attack, is the Human Torch, who, if you do a body shot, does it in 3. However, if you do a headshot, does it in 2. Now, the Human Torch, his attack is concentrated at close range. However, the farther you go, the less damage it's going to do. So technically it goes higher, but if you get within a certain range and leave that cluster to be still combined, you're pretty much taking out the enemy pretty quickly. Now, shooters were probably the most complicated to figure out. And I mean that because a lot of the shooters we have, like the Punisher, have alternative forms of fire. So with the Punisher, who is our number 3 shooter, I had to figure out what his machine gun does, which I believe does it in about 7.
Bad choices have bad
and what his shotgun does, which does it in about 2. And then average the two together to give us a more realistic number. So for the Punisher, between the two weapons, he's 5 to the body on average and 3 to the head. Now, the only reason it's a little bit less is because, well, the further you go with the shotgun, the less damage it does. But with the machine gun, well, it stays about the same. So that's why Punisher is tied for number 3. The other character tied for number 3 is Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl does it in about 3, regardless if you're aiming for the head or the body. So if you choose Squirrel Girl and you're doing it even at a distance, it'll be done in 3 hits. Now, the other one tied for number 3, and I know this may come as a shock, is Hawkeye. And the reason being is a lot of us, including myself, isn't going to do this at a charged rate. Most of the time, we might hit enemies at that range, which puts Hawkeye pretty much at 4 without fully charged, and about, I believe it's 3 for the head. Yeah. However, if you are able to get a full charge, it's 2 to the body and a glorious 1 to the head. But again, you have to be very precise, very good at aiming to get that shot off. Some of us may just choose to not do full charge at all times. I know it's silly, it's crazy, but we have to think of the average player trying to learn Hawkeye. But Hawkeye also has a explosive version. Now, these explosives can be charged up, but spread out as you go farther away. But if you get close enough and do a dead-on shot, which, God bless you if you do, it'll do it in, I believe, where is it, Hawkeye? It'll do it in about 3 to 5 hits. So, between the two different versions of Hawkeye, he averaged around 4 hits to the body and about 3.5 hits to the head. Now, that includes his normal arrow, his explosive arrow, and whether or not you're charging it up or not. Because not all of us are Hawkeye players. Not all of us are good at aiming those dead-on shots. Number 2 was again a 3-way tie, starting with Namor, who, let's go over here, who does the body shot in about 4 and does the headshot in about 2. So wait for this to come back, and 1 and 2. The other character that does the same exact thing is Hela. Again, Hela, if you're doing it from the body shot, it does it in about 4. If you do it within the head, well, there's that too. If you do it within the head, you do it in about 2. And the last character that does the exact same amount of damage is the Winter Soldier. Now, the problem with the Winter Soldier is the Winter Soldier only has 3 bullets. So 1, 2, 3, reload, and then 4. So if you are not using your abilities correctly, and you use all of your abilities, because what the abilities do is if you shoot and use an ability, you automatically reload. But if you're not relying on that, he does it in 4, but in the head, well, he does it in 2. And the number 1
here they come
characters is another 3-way tie when it comes to shooter damage. Again, basic damage, no buffs, no debuffs, just the basic damage on the left-hand screen. Moon Knight can take someone out in about 3 hits to the body. However, when he aims for the head, he can take him out in about 2. And they're done. Okay. The other character that does the same exact thing is, weirdly enough, Black Widow.
I was terrorized.
And I did this while either scoped in or basically no scope. So 1, 2, 3.
Another one bites the dust.
That's 3 to the body, 2 to the head. Regardless if you're scoped in or not, it's 3 to the body and 2 to the head with Black Widow. And then the last one that also does the exact same amount of damage is Psylocke. Psylocke does 3 to the body, and of course 2 to the head. Now, some honorable mentions. Iron Fist, who is part of the melee category, did it in about 7. Panther, who's part of the melee category, did it in about 8, along with Spider-Man, who did it in 8 with his melee attacks. Wolverine was a little bit harder to calculate because Wolverine, without his rage buildup, does it in 12. But when he gets that bloodlust, he does it in about 7. But again, you have to gamp up to that bloodlust, kind of like Mr. Fantastic with his buff body, to get that extra amount of damage. Now, flyers, there were only 3, so pretty much it was, Human Torch, Iron Man, and Storm. Some honorable mentions for the shooters was, again, Spider-Man. If you use his web shooters, it does it in about 8. Star-Lord, who was very shocking. If you aim and get all his shots down, Star-Lord did it in 10 to the body and 5 to the head. But they're very quick shooters, and you could miss some of those shots. This is why he's honorable mention. And lastly, the harder one to pretty much calculate was Scarlet Witch, because Scarlet Witch does it by continuous damage. If you basically just tap the controller, it does it in about 16 taps. However, kind of like what was the other person that had Iron Man with his laser, it can do it in about 5 seconds if you get continuous damage. And we've seen a lot of good Scarlet Witches that can really annoy you in the heat of battle. Now, who is the best overall in this category? Well, I would like to say Human Torch with the 3 and 2, but sadly, most of the Human Torch players play at a distance, so they're not going to get that full amount of damage. And with Psylocke, who is a 5-star, and also Black Widow, who's a 4-star, you're looking at a more difficult challenge when it comes to getting these characters down pack and having a good aim and good knowledge of how to play them. So Moon Knight is a 3-star character, is used a lot more in matches, so may be the number 1 overall character to use if you want a good basic damage. With that being said, honestly, it's up to you. It doesn't matter what the statistics say, and I know that's crazy that I'm saying this because I did do all the statistics and tried to count this out. It is up to you and how you play the character. Because there's someone that can play Squirrel Girl just as good as someone who plays Moon Knight. There's someone that can play Star-Lord that just plays as good as Hela. It's up to you and how you feel with that character. All I'm doing as a person who comes from a development perspective, who likes to break things down, is giving you the foundation of how much damage each one of these characters do. On paper, Moon Knight may be the best choice, but in gameplay, it's down to you. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your favorite character. Let me know your favorite DPS. What do you think of this list? Go check out the other ones that do healer and tank, so let me know your thoughts on that. Sub for more content. Check out my Snippy Joker shorts for short form content. Snippy Joker 2.0 for single player content demo review. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.